Let's talk about the global water crisis. For decades, we've been looking at this problem with one eye closed. But what if we're finally starting to see the full, staggering picture?
You know, when you think about the water crisis, your mind probably jumps to images of cracked, dry riverbeds, or maybe cities swamped by floods. And you're not wrong. But what if those pictures, as dramatic as they are only showing us half the story? What's the other, invisible half that we've been missing all this time?
Okay, so to really get what we're missing, we first have to talk about what we do see. This is the familiar, and let's be honest, terrifying face of the water crisis that we all know.
Yeah, shocking droughts, devastating floods, polluted rivers. This is the stuff you see on the news, right? These are the really visible, really dramatic symptoms of a system that's in trouble. And because they're so visible, they've pretty much captured all of our attention and all of our efforts to fix things.
So it makes sense that our policies, our solutions have all focused on the water we can actually see and measure and, control. We build dams, we dig wells, we manage rivers. This is what's known as blue water, the water in our lakes, rivers, and deep underground. But here's the thing, focusing only on this is kind of like a doctor treating a really bad cough without ever checking the patient's lungs. You're missing the root cause.
So, it's time to pull back the curtain. Let's talk about the real heavyweight in the freshwater cycle, the invisible majority that we've almost completely ignored. Scientists call it green water.
Let me break this down. You've got blue water. That's the stuff filling up our rivers and our wells. Simple enough. But then you have green water. This is the moisture that's held in the soil, the water that's sucked up by plant roots, the water that's literally stored in the leaves of trees. It's the water that whole ecosystems breathe back into the atmosphere, which then becomes rain. It is the lifeblood of our forests, our farms, honestly, pretty much all life on land.
And this is where the scale of our mistake just becomes crystal clear. Of all the fresh water that falls on land, a staggering 60% of it becomes green water. Only 40% becomes the blue water that we've been so obsessed with. We've been missing the majority of the picture this whole time.
And this green water, it isn't just sitting there. It is the engine that powers our entire terrestrial world. It fuels every single plant, from the tallest trees in the Amazon to the wheat that becomes our bread. Seriously, without green water, there's no photosynthesis, there's no food, there's no life on land as we know it. It's that fundamental.
But here is where it gets even cooler. This green water doesn't just stay put. It gets up and travels, forming these vast, invisible rivers in the sky that connect our entire planet in ways we're just beginning to understand.
The scientific term for this is terrestrial moisture recycling. But all that really means is that a huge chunk of the world's rain doesn't come from the ocean, like we were taught in school. It actually comes from the land itself, breathed out by forests and evaporated from the soil.
And how much are we talking about? Well, get ready for this. Globally, nearly half, 45% of all the rain that falls on land actually comes from other land. Just take a second and think about what that means. The health of a forest in one country can literally determine whether or not it rains in a totally different country, maybe hundreds of miles away.
And we're not just talking about neighboring countries here. These atmospheric rivers are so huge that scientists can now track moisture from the forests of West Africa as it travels all the way across the Atlantic Ocean to fall as rain in South America. It means we are all quite literally downstream from someone else.
This quote just says it all. We draw these neat little lines on a map and we call them watersheds, but the atmosphere, it just doesn't care about our lines. A river's true source might be an entire ocean away. Our whole model for how water works has just been way too small.
So what happens when we ignore this massive interconnected system and push it too far? Well, we're finding out the hard way. We are breaking our planet's natural boundaries, and the whole system is starting to show signs of breaking down.
You see, scientists have this concept called planetary boundaries. They're basically the safe operating limits for Earth's most critical systems. And the data is in, and it's not good. We have officially crossed the safe boundary for both blue water and for green water. We're pushing the entire global water cycle out of the stable state it's been in for thousands of years. And look, this isn't just some abstract warning. When you cross these boundaries, you create very real hotspots of instability around the globe. These are places where multiple crises, we're talking depleted groundwater, unpredictable rainfall, extreme dryness, are all hitting at the exact same time. It's a perfect storm for water insecurity.
So what's the human cost of this destabilized system? 4 billion people. That's half the population of this planet. 4 billion people already face severe water scarcity for at least 1 month out of every single year. This is not some future problem. This is here. This is now.
This new and frankly terrifyingly complete picture demands a completely new approach. We just can't keep treating water like a local resource to be piped and managed within our own borders. We have to start seeing it for what it truly is, a global common good.
The science is undeniable at this point. From the blue water rivers that cross borders to the green water atmospheric flows that connect continents, our water cycle is one single, deeply interconnected global system. So, doesn't it make sense that the way we manage it should be global too?
So what does this new way forward actually look like? Well, first, we have to recognize this deep interdependence, that no country is an island when it comes to water. Second, we have to start valuing all water, not just the blue water we drink, but the invisible green water that our forests and wetlands generate for all of us. That leads right to the third point. We have to actively manage and conserve these ecosystems as the critical water infrastructure they truly are. And finally, we have to put water right at the center of our big global fights against climate change and biodiversity loss, because it's the thread that ties all of them together.
All of this leaves us with a really profound and maybe a little uncomfortable question for our time. If the rain that falls on a farm in Brazil actually begins in a forest in the Congo, who owns the clouds? How we answer that question is going to define our future on this planet.